Well, we're going back 14, 15 years now to 2005, 6, and we met at Howard's Medicine Retreat Center in Iquitos, outside of Iquitos. And I can remember Sergey having a hard time with drinking ayahuasca. On the other hand, he loved Huachuma, and obviously he stayed with Huachuma, but just recently made his peace with ayahuasca again. So the circle moves around. Huachuma and ayahuasca really changed my life since that time. I had a daytime vision with Huachuma up at Chincheros back at that time, and I could see myself with a big Peruvian family and a Peruvian wife, and it was very real, and it made me change my whole life, and I eventually became a Peruvian citizen. I had this big family. It all came true. That vision all came true. And yeah, what can I say? It's been an amazing 15 years.
So how was working with ayahuasca in the beginning?
Yeah. Powerful, and got more so after leaving Iquitos and starting to work with Shipibo maestros. In 2007, I had a herniated disc in my back, and I went to the jungle to see if they could heal me. And I had had some very powerful experiences with ayahuasca prior to that, but I went up to another whole level. We were talking yesterday about how I left the planet. I went on a journey to the center of the universe, courtesy of ayahuasca, as part of the process of healing my herniated disc in my back.
Would you share about that?
Yeah, sure.
What happened?
Sure. It was the 5th of 5 ceremonies, and each ceremony had gotten progressively more wonderful. Started out difficult and started to get better and better, and by the 5th ceremony I was feeling really ecstatic. But one of the properties of ayahuasca is it makes you either vomit or purge from the South Pole. So right at the peak of the ceremony, I felt like I had to go to the bathroom, and it was hard to walk because everything was luminous, and it was the peak of the experience. But I made it out to this primitive latrine and sat down and began to do my business, and suddenly my spirit, my being, my essential self flew out of the top of my head, and I found myself immediately at the center of the universe.
That's right from the toilet.
Right from I'm sitting on the toilet, so talk about going from the ridiculous to the sublime. And it took no time. I was at the center of the universe, and for a nanosecond I saw God, which was the source of love, the infinite source of love. Too much love at that level for human consciousness to be around. So I had to immediately back off after only experiencing that infinite love for a nanosecond. And immediately I found myself in the presence of a being. And I'm not a particularly religious person, but I found myself in the presence of Christ. And I knew immediately who it was, and he just showered me with unconditional love for a long, long time. Time is different over the other side, but I can say it was a long time. Just love, no judgment, nothing, just showering me with love until it was time for me to go. And then I left to go back towards the planet, and I found myself in the presence of another being who I immediately knew was Archangel Michael. And I spent a long time with Archangel Michael and downloaded a lot of information, including that when I have issues in my life, things that need resolving and solving, to communicate with him. That's what he said to do, and I've done that in the years since, and with good results. And I had to leave his presence and head on back to the planet, and in doing so, I met another being who I realized was my wife. It was like the essential self of my wife. And we had only recently been married about a year. And so it was pretty amazing to meet her soul, her spirit, out in the cosmos and get a glimpse of who she really is. I think we're all much bigger than who we think we are. We make ourselves small. We're all very powerful, big beings, you know, in our essences. So shortly after that, I found myself sitting on the toilet and made my way back to the ceremony. And a week later, I had found that the intense pain of sciatica in my legs and my back was slowly dissipating. And after about a week, I was back with no pain. So that journey was sort of like the culmination of the healing process that I'd gone through, which was a very kind of an intense healing process with different modalities of massages and different jungle plants and saunas and, as I said, various ayahuasca ceremonies.
Isn't it interesting? We are told that we go to church to meet Jesus,
Yeah,
but when you drink ayahuasca, you meet Jesus in the bathroom.
yeah, exactly.
The actual Jesus. No?
And it was to show me.
And not the one on the cross.
Yeah.
The
No,
actual-
this is this was Christ. This was Christ just showering me with love. He was not on the cross. There was no evidence of any of that. And it was kind of to show me the universe has a sense of humor, you know, to take me straight from a bathroom
To God.
to God, you know, and to show me that everything is divine, really, you know. Bathroom is divine and the center of the universe.
So
Yeah.
how would you, how many times you had ayahuasca?
Several hundred.
Several hundred.
I would think 200 to 300 times.
So Huachuma,
Probably similar.
similar.
Yeah, maybe not as much. I haven't kept count for many years, but probably a couple hundred times with what you.
So how
yeah.
would you see them intertwine and help each other?
Well, I think they're complementary. You know, they have different characteristics. Huachuma is the spirit of nature, showing the divine in nature very powerfully. Ayahuasca is the spirit of the jungle, but also has this ability to take you flying in the universe, which I have to say I've never done since that time that I just described. I've always been just in the Baloka, you know, having the ceremony normally. Yeah. But they're very complementary. And they're both healing plants. But in terms of healing something like what I had, which was a fairly serious situation, there was a surgeon that wanted me to have an operation that was going to cost $10,000, and I didn't have the money, and that's why I went to the jungle. But I know that Huachuma is also a healing plant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
But in terms of spiritual growth, you know,
Yeah.
and opening up your consciousness and
Yeah,
making you understand the world,
yeah,
they work differently, but they essentially bring you to the same place of realization. You know,
yeah.
was that your experience too?
Definitely. They work in different ways, but essentially what you're saying, I think that's true. Yeah. Yeah.
So how would you share? What would you say about the Shipibo medicine versus the medicine we had in Iquitos?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Well, the Shipibo have a long lineage going back thousands of years, I don't know how many thousand, of having ayahuasca ceremonies central to their culture, and all their art that they produce in various forms, in ceramic, in textiles, and so forth, is all based on ayahuasca visions and ayahuasca songs, Iquitos. The designs you see on their fabrics and ceramics are actually the songs, is what I understand, made manifest, in an artistic way, stylized. Yeah.
It's incredible how much more powerful Shipibo ayahuasca is.
Yeah.
You know, I came from the jungle, we came from the same place, you know.
Yeah.
Had the ayahuasca with Don Robert in Spirit Quest, and at that time I thought that was like top of the line thing. I mean,
Right.
it was difficult, very difficult experience
Right.
for me. But nevertheless, it was magical at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm very connected to the spirits of the rainforest, you know. But when, after many years, I started to drink with Shipibo,
Yeah.
that's like a whole new level. That's something I didn't even
Yeah.
know exist. you
Yeah.
know?
I have a friend that calls the Shipibos the Raj Yogis of ayahuasca. You know, he's a Vedanta guy, my friend David, and that's the way he looks at them.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
they're the kind of supreme.
Yeah, that's and Howard was respecting them.
Yeah,
very
and,
much,
and,
you
and
know.
Don Robert, who we worked with back in Iquitos, he used to wear Shipibo clothing,
Yeah,
even though that's not his.
it's not his culture.
It's not his
Yeah.
culture. He comes from Lamas,
Mm-hmm.
up where I live now in the northern jungle.
Oh, that's the same culture. that
yeah,
they're sharing the same
yeah.
tradition. There.
Yeah. Mountain culture where they speak Quechua. But he has such respect for the Shipibos that he uses their clothing.
Definitely
Yeah.
interesting. So, how when you begin working with Huachuma, what were your first realizations, like deeply spiritual?
Yeah, everything just became more profound. You're in the same world, but you're seeing it with fresh eyes, and you're feeling the profundity of nature. You're feeling the power and the glory that's behind nature. You're feeling the divinity within nature, that every molecule is divine. And having had that experience of flying to the center of the universe, I know that everything is permeated with love. The primordial field is the field of love. And, the most banal thing you can say is God is love. You know, people say it all the time. And it's just like trips off their tongue. They don't really know what it means. But I had this one experience that I know that it's the basis of everything. Everything comes from love. Even on the level of physics, I mean, you can start to look at the different fields in physics. And from my point of view, the most profound, the most basic field of all is the field of love, and that's something to take into consideration. That physicists aren't quite there yet. They're doing all this stuff with colliders and Higgs boson and all this stuff, but
Trying to
that's
collide.
what's there. And also, we were talking yesterday about Einsteinian physics. It's like when I flew in an instant to the center of the universe, that completely negates Einsteinian physics, which says you can't go faster than the speed of light, and so the center of our galaxy would be light years away. And you would, in a rocket, you'd have to sit there for years and years and years to get to the center of the galaxy. I was there in an instant, in a flash. So, there's different levels. Einstein, when he came on the scene, was the big revolutionary and overturned Newtonian physics. But we're at a cutting edge of realizing that consciousness trumps materiality. Quantum physics, that's the takeaway philosophical understanding from quantum physics, is that material reality is actually illusory, which is what mystics and sages and shamans have been saying
Forever.
down through time. But cutting edge physics is actually bringing that into a wider public understanding and formalizing the math and so on and so forth. So we're at a very interesting time in history.
So what do you think would happen if Einstein would have ayahuasca?
Yeah, well, he was a mystic, and I think he would have appreciated it.
How that would change our science?
Yeah.
Go, get it.
Yeah.
Get it.
Well, I think he would have appreciated it because it would have opened up another whole way of seeing things, I mean, he was always kind of troubled by the implications of quantum physics and had a hard time resolving all the implications of it. And I think something like ayahuasca kind of gives you an immediate empirical experience of that, going beyond.
It's interesting that, as you mentioned before, that people easily say, God is love, and we are all one. It's like easier said than done.
Right.
But
Right.
when you actually experience the thing, then
Right.
you know what it means, and
Right.
that's my point that I'm trying to get across in the books and anywhere, in private conversation, that it's all true and correct, but it's all just words.
Yeah.
Unless you actually experience that, you cannot actually know that.
Yeah.
It's just theory.
Yeah.
Theory, it's easy.
Yeah.
Theory, it's just a repeating thing,
Yeah, well, that's a theme for my whole life. Since I was, I can remember being 14 years old and having mystical experiences of oneness briefly, and it became my compass needle. This is what I want. This is what I want. I want to have this feeling again. And I think that's built into humanity, who we are. I mean, there is this religious impulse that gets derailed all the time, but I think we have some kind of memory of being at one before birth, and likely when we die, we go back to the oneness. We have that memory, but it's all shut down for living our everyday lives in this world. But I think it's there in the background, and more so in some people than others.
Whispering.
Whispering, but hardcore materialists, it seems like they're pretty cut off from all of that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the cure for materialism is medicine.
It is.
The problem is that people who are hardcore, diehard atheists, they're afraid to go there.
Yeah.
Maybe on a subconscious level they know that will change the way they see, and they're afraid to lose their way of seeing things.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what you want to do. So,
yeah.
Why would you live in willful ignorance of the world?
Right.
If there is
right.
a cure for that, if there is a way to see beyond the material,
right,
and stare into the face of divine.
Right.
For me too, it was that burning desire to experience the
right.
truth, to experience spirituality, not just to have an appearance of spirituality or
right.
believe in someone who claims to be spiritual and knows the way to God,
Yeah.
And I had my time in the cults and this gurus thing,
right.
and it was good as far as teaching me the wrong way.
Yeah.
So there was used to it,
Yeah.
But when I came to the medicine, everything has changed, and
Yeah.
it became empirical.
That's the thing, direct experience trumps any kind of theoretical framework.
Belief,
Yeah.
Do you think this is the reason why sacred plants were suppressed throughout centuries and millennia even by religious authorities?
Yeah, well, it seems like every religious impulse in the world, that wound up forming a religion, started out with empirical experience. I mean, that's what you read in the texts, that these founders of religions had direct experience of the divine, but generations later it gets calcified, it gets put into a form, it gets put into a dogma, and the masses are forced to believe that there's just one way of viewing everything, and it's happened time after time through history, even modern religions,
But you see, the founding fathers, they never prohibited anything. They just shared their revelations. You know? The prohibition came from those comes later, who wants to monopolize the revelation.
Yeah, and then issues of power, money,
And
control, everything else, sex, it all, takes over the initial direct impulse, and the direct experience gets lost. Yeah. So personally, I'm just really grateful to the plant medicines that I've used to give that direct connection. It's probably not for everyone. I mean, I know people that just can't do medicine, and they have their own way of going inwards through meditation or whatever it is that they do. But me, I'm someone that kind of needed that kick in the pants, that actually imbibing a substance for several hours and feeling the effects for several hours, and then it's gonna diminish at a certain point. So you dedicate a day or a night or whatever it is to inner exploration, and I like that whole way of.
Yeah, that's my way too.
Yeah.
It's like it's a self-evident truth.
Right.
It's not someone tells you what to believe in.
Right.
It's not a second-hand experience of divine that you
Right.
have to sit and listen and to a guy with who speak with authority. It's the first-hand experience. It's your experience of divine.
And we both took various chemical substances in our youth, or our younger selves. Over the years, I've found that I'm grateful to have started out with LSD and MDMA and others, but I don't do any of that anymore, and I wouldn't ever do them again. At a certain point, I was in a ceremony, and I've heard loud and clear, don't ever do anything made in a lab. And these plant spirit medicines that we're using now, primarily ayahuasca and Huachuma, they have a long history, a long heritage of how you use them correctly, and the right set and the right setting. And at a certain time, MDMA really helped me break out of my uptight British cultural programming and loosen up and be in my heart more. But it's a chemical. It's a chemical made in a lab, and it has physical effects that you don't really want to repeat over and over again. A few times, okay, your body will get rid of it. But I've met people who've done way too much, and not good in the long run. Whereas these plant, Sergei is living proof that you can drink Huachuma thousands of times,
only feeling
without
better.
any problem at all.
Only feeling better, and I totally relate to the chemical stuff. It helped me a lot.
Yeah.
In my youth, that was MDMA was my
Right.
my key, my key to the magical world,
Yeah.
That was the one drug I truly loved,
Right. Right. But it has that physical effect of
Yeah,
depleting
it's
your
depleting,
your life energy.
And I always felt like it was a chemical filter there, It's
Yeah.
like you're reaching out, but there is still, a filter
Yeah.
to it. So, it's all over it's all ended for me when I had ayahuasca and Huachuma first time 15 years ago.
Right.
And it's like in the rainforest, they're sitting there thinking that's all in the past. Now it's the real path,
Yeah.
Now it's the spirit plans,
Yeah.
and changed my life completely, from hopeless to bliss,
Yeah. Yeah.
My gratitude is just infinite
Yeah.
for everything that it did to me, and how it tore my life, and what is it today,
Right. Right.
and you can relate to it because your life changed in a similar way
Yeah.
earlier on the path.
Well, it's been wonderful seeing you evolve over time, and now coming back after 7 years of being away and seeing what you've built here in this wonderful place, and you just had a vision at the beginning, and you followed it, man.
That's it.
I was there when Sergey first came to Peru to live. Picked him up in my little car at the airport with his cats, and and he said, "I want to do Huachuma," and I'm like, "Go for it, man. Go for it."
And here we are.
And here we are, and he's gone for it and found it pretty wonderful.
So,
Yeah.
what would you say to people who are hearing the call from both ayahuasca and Huachuma, but afraid
Yeah.
to do it? What would
Well,
you-
I'd say being afraid is completely understandable. It is quite something to leave your everyday self and enter into something much more profound. But my experience is it's all completely safe. I would say Huachuma is slightly easier than ayahuasca overall. For one thing, the taste of actually drinking the liquid it's bitter, but it's not obnoxious. Ayahuasca, you really have to get it together to drink ayahuasca. I mean, sometimes it can be quite sweet, but the majority of times that I've drunk ayahuasca, it's not been an agreeable experience. So there's that. That's sort of the portal you have to cross with ayahuasca. Whereas Huachuma, pretty easy for me at least. And always a peaceful, profound experience. Ayahuasca is much more sort of fireworks than Huachuma. Can be very spectacular, including flying off into outer space. Most of the time I don't fly off into outer space. I'm in my body. I can feel the medicine working on me, helping me. And at a certain point I go into intense visions a lot of times. But they're interior neon visions that is the DMT doing its thing, But very good for just a much more extensive overview of your life. In near-death studies, people who've almost died and come back, they have this thing of the life review, where you see your whole life go by. I've had that with ayahuasca. It's like memories that I hadn't thought of for years and years and years from my childhood surface at the end of the ceremony. And I'm going through kind of like a movie of my life. And, this certain difficult things come up that I really don't want to look at, but I have to look at, and so on and so forth. So it's called the Vine of Death. That's what ayahuasca means. And it does put you much closer to the threshold. Huachuma less so. It's more here and now in your life, just making everything much more profound and showing you, the power and the glory that's behind the natural world. Yeah.
So what would you say people do?
I would say people who are nervous, start with Huachuma and work your way to ayahuasca. Yeah, but they're both very complementary and both totally legal here in Peru. Not only legal, but honored by government statutes, which is pretty amazing. It's
amazing,
for me, that's a biggie.
Yeah, well, that's why I moved to Peru. You know.
Yeah.
I couldn't live in a place where my religion
Yeah,
was illegal.
yeah.
It's like, no.
And it's absurd. These are plants that have been used for millennia and are recognized as healing plants. But we've got some strange priorities in the world today, especially with pharmaceuticals, the way that's pushed to the detriment of natural medicine. Yeah.
Well, everything upside down in the world.
Everything. You know, I'm not 100% against pharmaceuticals. They've helped me at certain times in my life, but the way that it's pushed at the cost of natural medicine is absurd.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've personally found out that ayahuasca, in particular, can cure quite serious physical, mental problems. And Huachuma too.
They both do.
I think you can comment on this, but I think Huachuma really helps with mental issues, emotional issues, and so on. A lot. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's more here, you know.
Yeah.
It's more, as you say, here and now.
Yeah.
But they're very much. There are different spirits, but at the very top, they're essentially the same.
Yeah.
That's from my experience. Is that at the very, very bottom of it, it's the one thing that have two different appearances, different plants and different.
Yeah.
It's just one love, really.
Yeah, I'd recommend doing both. I mean, you don't really need a whole lot more because I think they cover the bases really. Between them.
They cover a whole lot.
They cover the bases, Another plant that's interesting to me is iboga. I've never done it. I think for addicts, for everything that I've
Probably
read,
the best.
it's a wonderful thing. Maybe I'll try it at some point. It's never really knocked on my door.
Mm-hmm.
But
I know people who work with iboga.
Yeah.
But I wasn't cold. It's like it's not my world.
Right.
I've dealt with my addictions early on.
Right.
It would be very helpful 25 years ago when I was messing with heroin and stuff.
Definitely.
But I managed to get out of it by myself, and
Right.
that was my path.
Yeah.
Kind of
But
get through it.
it's one of the other powerful plant allies that are in the world. And that's specifically African,
Yeah.
different spirit. Yeah.
Well, anything else you want to add?
Well, just grateful here and now in 2021 to be back here after the last time we drank was back in 2014.
Yeah, 7 years.
It's amazing the way that time just flew by.
Yeah.
And don't want to leave it so long this time. I want to come back.
And how was the reconnection yesterday?
Yesterday was wonderful. The medicine was strong. It was suave, as we say in Spanish. It was gentle, but at the same time strong. And one more time, back feeling the profundity of the natural world. We went up to the river, close to Sergio's place here. And just beautiful, sitting out in nature all day, and mostly on my own, but then connecting with Sergio and talking about some profound issues, clarifying things from our past, to do with maestros that we've worked with, so on and so forth. A big thing that came up yesterday was integrity. In the shamanic world, things can get murky, as anyone who's been in the shamanic world any kind of length of time knows, especially down in the Amazon. It's kind of, there's a lot of wild energy down there flying around, and maintaining integrity.
It's a key.
Very, very important. Very important. We've both seen lack of integrity and where that leads to, and even up till people dying. And so Sergey and I are on the same page. It was nice reconfirming all of that yesterday. We're in a crazy time on the planet, but as the title of Sergey's book indicates, the cactus of sanity, it just feels very sane to be just taking a step back, going within, and it's very healing for me, very welcome after a crazy year and several months. So very, very grateful to have come back here. Beautiful family. I knew Mia from before, but Alexandra is new, beautiful to see her. We have a lot of history. My wife Lourdes and I helped host Mercedes and Sergey's wedding. What was it, 12 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. We used to live in this part of the world. We've since moved to the northern jungle. Great being back. Yeah.
To reconnect.
Yeah.
What would you say to people who are now living in fear and kind of, afraid for the future and for where we're going as a human society?
I've had my own days of feeling fearful, with everything that's been going on. But something like taking a day like we did yesterday, it just recalibrates. It's like no reason to fear, there's a deeper reality that's not affected by fear, and tuning into that, and it certainly helps. Certainly helps the situation.
So plant medicine is the cure.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
That's what I believe too,
Yeah.
It's like, that what keeps me sane, living in a crazy world.
Right. And I think it's probably going to get crazier before it gets better again.
Well,
so
I got a lot of
we're just going to keep
here.
doing what we do,
Exactly.
And, I know we're both grateful we live in Peru, which is overall feels like a saner place to me, even though it's got its problems. But I'm glad to be out of the U.S. personally. I have a lot of appreciation for the country and the people, but I'm glad to be in Peru. It feels like we have something more approaching democracy here. As I mentioned, the plant spirit medicines are all completely legal here, and that's a lot. And the majority of the people here work the land and know how to grow food. Very small percentage of the population in the industrial countries know how to do that.
Yeah, cut off.
Yeah.
From ground.
Yeah.
Cut off from land,
Yeah.
in many ways, in literal and metaphorical.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
Well, our medicine grows from the ground, and
Mm-hmm.
that's my pharmacy right here.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time. It was really good to reconnect.
Yeah.
Had a good day yesterday. And don't disappear for another 7 years.
Yeah.
We're just living down the corner.
Yeah.
Down the road.